Batman vs. Superman, Elon vs. Zuck, house cats versus vacuum cleaners. It's a question as old as time itself. Who would win in a fight? Well, in the animal kingdom, that question is answered on the daily, often in truly surprising ways, and sometimes even natural selection can't predict the outcome. From a snake-slaying tortoise to the surprising battle tactics of a hyena, grab your binoculars as we take a look at some animals who really messed with the wrong opponent. Reptile Rumble. Both pythons and alligators have made their mark as two of the world's most feared reptilian predators. But who would really tip the scales in a fight? There's only one way to find out. Well, I'd say that was a pretty decisive victory for our gator there. As one of the Florida Everglades' apex creatures, the invasive Burmese python species has virtually no predators with just one exception, the American alligator. But this is just one battle in the reptilian war for the Everglades. Experts have found that both American alligators and Burmese pythons mutually prey upon one another. These pythons were first brought to the U.S. as exotic pets in the 1980s, and experts believe many of them made their way into the Everglades sometime after a python breeding facility in the region was destroyed by Hurricane Andrew in 1992. As if a hurricane wasn't already bad enough, can you imagine having to deal with pythons in the eye of the storm too? While the American alligator and Burmese python have shared the Everglades for just a few decades, it's clear this rivalry is set to be one for the history books, and one that I shall be steering far clear of, thank you very much. Shell-shocked. If you ever thought the tale of the tortoise and the hare had a surprise ending, how would you wager the epic of the tortoise and the snake will end? Well, that was wild. Snakes on the hunt will target the softer parts of a turtle or tortoise, including the head, but this not-so-slippery fellow found out the hard way that this tactic isn't foolproof. While a tortoise's shell is its main form of defense, they will also scratch and bite attackers, and if that attacker so happens to be head-on, all the better. It reportedly took the snake around 5 minutes to escape from the shell after the tortoise's strong, sharp-beaked jaws had clamped down upon it, delivering some savage bites. Slither away in shame, my friend. Slither away. Quarrelsome quills. With the absurd superpower of spike hair, the porcupine can be a near impossible snack for even top predators. Porcupines are covered by more than 30,000 individual needle-sharp quills. But it only took a few to teach this leopard a painful lesson, who earned nothing from its hunt but the laborious task of yanking them out from beneath his fur. Ouch! Even in death, the wrath of the porcupine can haunt predators, something this unlucky python learned the spiky way after it swallowed a porcupine whole. Sheesh, and I thought heartburn was the worst consequence of a cheat meal. Note to self, never eat a porcupine. Riveting rumbles. Down in the land of Australia, reptilian and amphibious predators rule supreme among the undergrowth. With so many around, often it comes down to a question of who's the bigger fish. which is exactly what this green tree frog had in mind when it set its eyes on an unlucky Australian keelback snake. Luckily for this brave little frogster, and unlucky for the snake, keelbacks are one of Australia's few non-venomous snakes, making it quite appetizing. Though according to the cameraman's report, Mr. Frog still apparently regurgitated the snake after realizing he'd bitten off more than he could chew. Australian green tree frogs are about twice the size of their American counterparts, partially because they're prone to overeating and can become comically obese. But this beastly appetite can sometimes get them into trouble. Considering Australia is home to 20 of the 25 most venomous snakes on Earth, you could say that green tree frogs have a palate for peril. In this utterly wild pick, this crazy frog had chowed down on a young coastal taipan, one of Australia's most notoriously venomous snakes. Despite receiving a venomous bite in the process, not only did the frog manage to swallow the reptile completely, but walked away from the encounter seemingly unharmed. Looks like us humans better watch out.
Ow. Oi. Oi.
Oh my god, no one is safe. Run for your lives! The giant tree frogs will devour us all! Who's in charge? Deep in the Brazilian Amazon, there's a whole host of mean predators lurking in the waters. But every now and again, these predators take the chance to mess with one another rather than their prey. Take, for example, an alligator versus an electric eel. If you thought gators and crocs were kings of the river, this gator just got the biggest shock of his life. Literally. Despite the lack of teeth, electric eels can be even more dangerous than alligators thanks to modified muscle cells known as electrocytes, thousands of which work in tandem to discharge electricity into their surroundings. With these tools at their disposal, electric eels can release a shock of up to 800 volts into the water around them. That's enough to power some of the best performing electric cars. While it's unclear whether Gator got the aid he needed and lived to lunch another day, it's safe to say this eel sure showed him who's really in charge. Bunny boiling point. If you were asked to think of the cutest, most innocent animal you can, I'd wager that bunnies come pretty far up the list, right? Now place that adorable little bunny rabbit in the path of a menacing snake. Think you know how that'll end? Think again.
అమ్మో ఇటే వస్తుంది నాన్న అమ్మో ఇటే వస్తుంది నాన్న
స్నేక్ వచ్చింది అది
హాసిగో స్నేక్ చూద్దురారా స్నేక్ అగో.
If you never thought you'd find yourself sympathizing with a snake, it's pretty hard not to feel bad for this one. Bro is literally getting drop kicks one right after the other. Once old Slithery realizes he's made the biggest mistake of his life, he tries to flee the scene, but this bunny is one relentless mother thumper. Even when it looks like it's all over for the bun, after temporarily evading with a might backflip, he comes right back with even more bites and kicks to finish the job. While there are many people out there who are scared of snakes, and justifiably so, remind me never to get between a rabbit and its patch of green. Hippo rampage. Down in the African bush, everyone knows that the lion reigns supreme, right? Nobody would be dumb enough to mess with them, right? When these three male lions were enjoying a carefree dip in a river in Botswana, they were blissfully unaware they'd crossed into enemy territory. Enemy hippo territory. This guy came in like a wrecking ball. Hippos have been officially recognized as the most dangerous large land mammal on Earth, and for good reason. While lions have the advantage of speed and can catch up to a hippo in no time, there's a reason they don't tend to mess with these big-toothed chubsters. A hippo's bite force can measure well over 1,800 pounds per square inch, or PSI, compared to just over 650 for the average male lion. Yeah, I wouldn't put my head in there, Simba. Stick to working on running away. A thankless tusk. If you're an elephant living in the Zambian plains, it's an unfortunate fact that when easier prey isn't available, the weaker among your herd will always be on the backup menu for the local lions. But one elephant caught on camera in 2014 decided it wasn't too happy about becoming lion supper.
A little further. Yeah, that's it. Fight back.
While things look pretty dire, this elephant wasn't going down without a fight.
Yeah, swing her off. And then it's stopping. Another lion over there. Oh, look, you got it.
Oh, yeah.
Look, look, look.
No, don't come out.
Don't come
No,
out.
no, 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 no.
No, that was a bad move. Come on, come on.
Despite being flanked by a pack of 14 lionesses on the hunt, this tusk force of one walked away relatively unscathed. But how did it succeed? Because of their relatively smaller size, younger elephants like this one are a frequent target for hunting lions who often favor this kind of rear attack. And there's a reason for that. In a face-to-face match, lions must contend with an elephant's tusk and trunk, which the latter can easily use to swipe away their opponents. So once Herc was able to swing his attackers off his back and face them, this pride lost its swagger. But maybe these lions were just in the middle of a particularly intense game of The Floor is Lava. Now that really is life and death. Savage Snapdown. We've already seen how just one hippo can make short work of the king of the jungle. But there's only one thing scarier than a rampaging hippo, and that's being mauled by a herd of them.
There he is. Got him. Got him big time.
While this Karaki Croc might have thought he was king of the river, this gang of 30 hippos soon set him straight. Despite their reputation as one of the most powerful predators on Earth, crocodiles primarily fight by ambushing their prey without warning, which is pretty difficult to pull off in a group with this many opponents. Despite their blubbery, herbivorous, and seemingly lethargic appearance, even alone, these great giants are no easy meal for a croc. And in a huge group, it's good night. While hippos aren't particularly territorial on land, in water, it's a different story. For a pod of hippos, water isn't merely a habitat, but is crucial in providing safety from predators as well as helping them cool down their large bodies. Watering holes play a key role in maintaining a pod's social structure, meaning that outsiders are most certainly not welcome. I guess an interspecies game of Marco Polo is off the table then. Zebra Throwdown. Life in the African plains can seem a bit black and white, especially for those stripy hoofed fellows lower down on the food chain. Or is it? As prey, it's natural that a zebra would flee from predators, but despite their docile appearance, these black and white beauties can show a completely different side when their dominance is threatened. This African icon's social structure is actually pretty violent. Zebras form packs made up on one dominant male leading as many as 6 females and their foals in a group. Younger males will often form bachelor herds and fight other stallions for females, even going as far as to steal females from existing groups. Stallions like these two will often get into brutal fights over recently matured mares, which often end in just one coming out alive. Considering that they can reportedly kick with upwards of 2,000 pounds of force, it's not surprising that these battles often turn fatal. That being said, I prefer imagining these two just having a little disagreement over whether they're black with white stripes or white with black stripes. Bird boxing. While owls are known the world over for their silent stealth, when feathers are ruffled, that can go out the window. These two English gentlebirds had a not-so-polite encounter when a tawny owl barged in for tea at a barn owl's nest uninvited. Barn and tawny owls traditionally nest in the cavities of mature trees, but these natural habitats are becoming increasingly rare in our urbanized world. Because of this, the owl real estate market is fiercely competitive, even when it comes to nest boxes installed by humans like the one in the clip. While tawny owls are known for being highly territorial in nature, barn owls don't tend to be. But even so, it seems like entering without knocking is simply a no-go for any species. Golfing gobble. At one California country club, golfers played witness to the most epic birdie of all time. But not the golfing kind. Now that's one bird that's going out of his way to make sure we all know he ain't no chicken. While you'd assume that turkeys fall well below the likes of a predatory snake in the animal kingdom's food chain, one look at this fairway throwdown is sure to make you think again. Surprisingly enough, small snakes are a frequent snack for turkeys. In fact, many smaller species of snake, like this king snake, have come to recognize turkeys as predators and will actively avoid them at all costs. While the turkey reportedly won the confrontation, killing the snake off camera, the pecking order was shaken up once again as, unbelievably, a hawk was seen swooping down and stealing the turkey's hard-earned kill. Damn freeloaders! Pride or primate? Scientists have found that us humans share 94% of our genes with baboons. But ask yourself what you'd do in the shoes of this particular primate.
I can't believe it's chasing.
Captured during a safari trip in the West Serengeti, Tanzania, this bombastic baboon seemed completely unfazed at the idea of shooing lions away. While the lion was the initial aggressor, the baboon was having none of it and took risky moves to charge at the lion head-on. But it seems that pride may have gotten the better of our baboon friend. Let's see how it ends.
That's it.
Unfortunately for the monkey, the lioness calls for backup and, well, you get the picture. Now, a larger primate like a gorilla might actually stand a chance against a lion, being able to pitch a tremendous punch force measuring upwards of 1,300 pounds per square inch against a lion's bite of just under 1,000 psi. But in reality, those animals have never been snapped in a real-life clash, if they've ever actually clashed at all. So for now, we'll have to depend on some creative Photoshop. Oh, Photoshop gods, we call upon you. Make it so! Bring this fantastical fight to life. Ah, wonderful. Nature at its finest, heavily photoshopped. Badger boss fight. With such a sweet and cuddly name, honey badgers don't sound like a particularly formidable opponent, but you should know by now that appearances are often deceptive. This pack of Ethiopian wolves certainly got a taste of these honey badgers' sweet vengeance. Despite outnumbering the badgers 3-1, these wary wolves had no choice but to give up their honey-glazed supper, which fought back unrelentingly. Even lions think twice before messing with a honey badger. But what makes these little guys such formidable opponents? You probably wouldn't expect it, but honey badgers have remarkably thick skin. Their skin is at least a 1/4 inch thick, which is even thicker than a buffalo's, a beast 50 times the size of a honey badger. Not only that, but the skin around the badger's neck is surprisingly loose, which allows the badger to twist around and bite an assailant even while in their grasp. Thanks to this, honey badgers have a lot less reason to fear bust-ups with predators, making them about as fearless as an animal can possibly be. The Queen of Ranthambore. They say a tiger can never change its stripes, but it turns out some can change up their prey in some pretty surprising ways. Meet Makali, a Bengal tiger from India's Ranthambore National Park that has become known the world over for her unique inclination to pick on only the fiercest of opponents. Bengal tigers usually prefer to feast on the likes of wild deer and boar, but Makali had, so to speak, a slightly snappier palate. While both lions and tigers have been known to have the rare face-off with crocodiles, Makali made it a personal sport. Between 1998 and 2009, this tigress went on a croc-crushing spree, taking down numerous beasts including this 14-foot monster in 2003. But why? Experts theorize that Makali's croc-killing nature might come down to one of the most powerful forces on Earth: motherly love. The average tigress will give birth to 2 or 3 cubs in her lifetime, but Makali was mom to at least 11 fur babies that needed protecting, which likely spurred on her croc-killing threat elimination spree. While most tigers only live for around 12 years, Makali made it to the grand old age of 19 before passing away in 2016. But even in death, Makali will always be known as the Queen Mother of Tigers, bringer of Crocpocalypse. Stink Attack. There's no doubt the animal kingdom's top predators are armed to the teeth with a whole host of offensive attacks in their arsenal, but this next unlikely champion may be armed with just about the most offensive of all. Forget sneak attacks, this skunky furball is armed with the perfect bare-faced stink attack. Small and kind of cute from a distance, skunks would seem pretty vulnerable to the likes of the American black bear if it weren't for the not-so-secret weapon loaded inside their behinds. Skunk spray is comprised of mainly sulfuric compounds called thiols and thioacetates, which are potent, foul-smelling liquids produced inside the creature's butt glands. The spray doesn't just smell bad, but can cause temporary blindness if it gets into the eyes, and for most predators, just one encounter with a skunk spray is enough to keep them away for life. While mature black bears know to avoid skunks, youngsters like this one have to learn their lesson the hard and very smelly way. Hounded. Known as the opportunistic scavengers of the wild, this photo of a hyena captured in the grasslands of Londolozi, South Africa might surprise you. Why would a hyena dare to get this close to a rhino, let alone its rear end? But this guy isn't going in for a sniff. No, this is all part of a pretty smart plan. In a method not dissimilar to the way those lions were trying to take down an elephant earlier, this pack of hyenas are employing a tactic I'm going to call the butt bite approach. In very rare cases, hyenas may target young or weak rhinos by specifically targeting their hindquarters to slowly wear the beast down, as this is one area where the hide is slightly less thick and is pretty much an impossible position for an animal like a rhino to defend. It's pretty awful to imagine how a bite to the nethers from a beast with a bite force of 1,100 pounds per square inch must feel, but if it proves successful for the hyenas, that's a sizable meal that'll keep them laughing for weeks. Sharky Shakedown. Good evening and welcome to your BMA's news broadcast. I'm your host Bartholomew. Our top story tonight comes from the sunny coast of South Africa, where officials suspect a diabolical shark stalker is at large. Over to our correspondent on the scene for more.
Well, Bartholomew, it's a real mystery unfolding down here on the Cape Town coast, where 17 sharks have been found washed up dead on the beach in just one day. Stranger still is that all of them seem to be missing their livers. 2 local orcas known as Port and Starboard are the leading suspects in the slaughter, but detectives have theorized that the orca's motivation is more of an oily affair. A shark's liver makes up about 1/3 of its body weight and is rich in a nutritious oil called squalene. Marine experts have concluded that thanks to the high amount of squalene, a single shark liver can sustain an orca for a whole day. So orcas will tear their shark prey open, shredding its flesh with their teeth, feast on the liver, and leave. Next thing you know, the unnerving liverless carcass washes up on a beach, like we see here. Truly a senseless display. The orcas could not be reached for comment at this time, but we will update you when we know more. Back to the studio.
Thanks. Looks like those sharks messed with the wrong orcas. All I'll say is good luck getting those killer whales in fin cuffs. That's all for whale news, but remember to paddle your little fins over to those like and subscribe buttons. Why not hook that bell too, so you can keep on the pulse of the craziest and most amazing stories out there. And that's about all, folks. Have you ever witnessed any animal showdowns that ended in a surprise? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, thanks for watching.